What are fairies? If they exist, from what do they exist? Where did or do they come from? And what, if any, impact do they have on our world?
Right. So in the occult world, these are creations of the gods again. These are part of the visible hierarchy versus the invisible hierarchy, which is the um, council of the gods. Now, you could include demons as being, right below them as the disembodied spirits of the giants, as part of the invisible ones, because they don't have bodies anymore. But they are working on creating new bodies for them so they can have that dwelling place for their spirit and the soul and the body. And we'll probably see that in the end times. So
I
these
believe
are
it.
a Nephilim-like creature, but just created a little bit differently. There are four groups of elementals, as they're called, and they're the lowest level according to the occult. And they're physical beings. They can be changelings, so they have attributes and powers, just like the Nephilim had additional powers that were passed on from the fallen angels. And so you have um, mischievous ones that are like leprechauns and pixies and brownies and the Menuhe in Hawaii, and they're all around the world, or the Laurel people in some of the First Nations. You have the good-looking ones, which are commonly known as the little people, but all of these are kind of little people as part of the first three groups of the elementals. So you would have neroids, sprites, mermaids. I don't really put mermaids in there. I think that's a different classification, but part of the occult puts them in there. Mermaids are more closer to the sirens that are talked
Sure.
about in the book of Enoch. Um, so you have the elves, but these are the dark elves, not the white elves. The white elves are giants, Tuatha Dé Danann, and that's why you have them shown as bigger and more noble in the Lord of the Rings versus the hobbits and
Mm.
the dwarves and the other ones that are in there, and these are the ugly ones like the gnomes, like right, and they're all part of the hierarchy. Like the dwarves would make the weapons for the demigods in the earth, just as they're depicted in Lord of the Rings in the mountains. And so these are the three groups of elementals that work as part of the world. And then there's one other group um, that is, and they all have part as their allegory. One is wind, one is fire, one is earth, one is air, as the four elementals. The fourth group is the salamanders, which are reptilians, and they are larger than humans.
Hmm.
And we typically sort of see them in the alien mythos underground. Um, but wherever they are higher than the little ones, and they're a little bit higher up in the hierarchy. So I don't know where these ones come from. The only thing I get biblically that would fit them is this: maybe somehow, some way, the fallen angels saved some of the Nahash serpents.
Hmm.
And in the Gnostics, they were taller than humans. They're the size of a camel in terms of height, which sort of fits that description perfectly as a serpentine intelligent being. That just as fallen angels were able to either reproduce and or save some of the giants to survive the flood, or both, this may have happened with the Nahash as well. And same with the little people. You could same way, because they show up both before and after the flood as well, just like the Bigfoot does. So same sort of understanding here. So biblically we need to understand this because they're part of the spurious ones, the spurious offspring, and that they're here to run the world with the descendants of the giants, that answers to the council of the gods that rules over the 70 nations. And so they provide knowledge and stuff. So they're in technology. And biblically, we get a term in Greek called stoichia. And it's a word that is translated as rudiments and elements. So in Galatians 4:3 and 4:9, we get elements. And in 4:3, it says we're in bondage under the elements of the world.
Interesting.
And in 4:9, it's talking about the beggarly elements whereunto ye desire to be in bondage. And the other passages are for rudiments is 2 Colossians 2, 8 and 20 in principalities, where it's translated in 5 in I'm not sure what passage that one's out of off the top of my head. I've lost that one for a second. But anyways, these are elements can be translated as these type of beings that keep us in bondage, or the other passage where you'll see elements, it's just going to be elements of the universe, of the physical universe, the basic element. So we're told about these elementals in the Bible that help to keep us in bondage. They're working with the other visible ones for the council of the gods.
Wow. I don't know if you've seen it. Eli Marzulli has a very interesting video out where he visits this lab, and this guy is in supposed possession of a
Yeah,
very small fairy, this little winged creature. I think he's got it in a jar of formaldehyde,
yeah,
I believe, just to preserve it. And they took some clippings from the wings there, and I haven't gotten to see if anything's come of it, but they were trying to get at the DNA. And if I remember correctly,
yep,
in the video that he had put out, the DNA was of a certain percentage human, and then there was just this code that they've never seen exist in
yep,
nature in any
yep.
animal that we know of.
Well, that's what you get with Bigfoot as well. A
Sure,
hint
I
of
would imagine so.
human mixing in there as they get into some of the DNA. It was Hebrews 5:12 is where where
Hebrews 5:12.
stoichian was translated as principles. So, yeah, we need to be aware of this, and that there's a connection between all of this and the alien mythos. So the gnomes, which are ugly ones, controlled flying machines, technology, genealogies in that hierarchy. And they would use these UAPs to come through fairy domens or portals, kidnap
Hmm.
people. And I put 2 of those kidnappings from 100 or a couple hundred years ago and 400 years ago, and it's been a tradition that comes down through our history, into book 1. And if you didn't know it was a fairy abduction, you'd swear it was a gray alien abduction, because they're described exactly the same and do the same things. And then of course, you got the reptilians and the alien mythos. So they're going to create this alien mythos so that angels can walk amongst us and all of the spirit's offspring can walk amongst us in the end time.
Man, truth is stranger than fiction there, folks.